From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris coming to you on a Wednesday. A good show on tap, as always. With a program like this, I want to invite you to join in the conversation whenever we do this. It's opening up the phone lines and your chance to ask questions or share comments, because we're here to help if we can. Today, we're talking legal issues again. It's our annual visit, not annual, monthly visit with one of the top malpractice attorneys, I say, in the entire country. I've learned more from this man about litigation, not just when it comes to the medical field, but in general. He's very bright, and he's right here in town. We're going to take your phone calls and questions with regard to medical malpractice and the like. And for that, we will be joined now by Clint Kelly. Good morning to you, sir. Wow, look at that. You've got a new background. No golf course this morning.
How about that? Yeah, we're going logo instead of golf course.
Hey, man, promote it. It looks good. It's good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing real well. You look dapper today. I like that turtleneck.
You know what? We have fashion consultants that we sometimes have to deal with, and sometimes they'll say, no, Nick. But you know what? The two things she said, you can wear turtlenecks and you can wear vests, which are two things I enjoy wearing. And so I thought I'd pull one out.
That's a good look for you.
It's comfortable. Thank you. Well, listen, Clint, we're going to take some phone calls, some already coming in, 737-7587. Wanted to just touch bases with you at the top of the show and see if there's some things you want to hit on, maybe some new developments, cases, maybe something new with regard to some of your COVID cases in the nursing homes as well. What you got?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw it, but Jennifer Krause, I believe, is reporting, if she didn't do it this morning, she'll do it tonight, about an arbitration that we completed last month, and it was a follow-up to a story where a lady who's 87 years old in an assisted living facility was locked in her room by herself with the motion sensor turned off. She was a high fall risk, had fallen twice before at the facility within the last 3 months, and was known to try to go to the bathroom on her own, and so she always needed assistance. That's part of what people in assisted living facility need. They always need assistance to go to the bathroom. And she had been left alone many times and would try to go to the bathroom rather than urinating on herself. Long story short, she's in a room by herself, and she got up out of the wheelchair to go to the bathroom. She made it to the bathroom in her room, but when she was trying to get back to the wheelchair, she fell, slammed her head down on the floor, sustained a traumatic brain bleed, and died from it 5 days later.
Yeah.
Probably the worst part of it, I thought, was that she was left on the floor, we think, for about 2 hours until she was discovered by a caregiver who happened to go by her room to get her pajamas out. So, and they have motion sensors at these places, Nick, that are designed to detect someone moving so that a staffer can respond immediately to help that resident either out of bed or out of the wheelchair. It does a great job preventing falls, but for whatever reason, when she was locked in this room, the caregiver that put her in there left the alarm off. We got offered a measly sum at settlement, so we took the case to arbitration, which we were forced to go to because of a contract that was signed in admission. But an arbitration is where you have a lawyer sit and listen to a trial. It's really no different than a trial, except instead of a jury, you have an arbitrator. And we tried the case and won $526,000 for the family. So we're very pleased with the result.
Wow. Okay. As a matter of fact, Clint, we ran a story with Jennifer this morning on that, and there probably will be more in this evening's newscast. I thought that you were, I think, involved with that case, so good to hear how that worked out. So walk us through this just to a degree, just so folks understand. When you had to go to arbitration, it's because when you move into some of these places, they ask you to sign things. So it didn't necessarily go straight to a trial, though I think you're probably pleased with the result. This was one that it was an arbitrator or a judge that awarded the money and, feeling that it had to be more than what they had offered you.
Yeah, it was an arbitrator who acts like a judge and a jury, because at many of these facilities, whether they're nursing homes or assisted care living facilities, when you admit a resident, an older person there, practically all these facilities make you sign an agreement that if the patient resident is injured on the premises, instead of filing a lawsuit, you're required to submit your claims to arbitration. And that's in all kinds of agreements. You know, if you've got internet service, and you name it, these days, people are giving up their rights to jury trial and they're going to arbitration. It's a separate issue. But anyway, we submitted the claim to arbitration. As I told you, we took depositions. We tried to settle it. The defendants wanted to settle on their terms. They didn't want to pay what she was owed. And frankly, the case was, Nick, it was one of the worst cases of corporate arrogance I've seen in a long time. They muddied up the investigation of what happened to her, took a hard line, defended their conduct, would not admit liability. I mean, come on, they put this woman in a room by herself, locked the door, and left the motion sensor alarm off. I mean, if that's not negligence, I mean, even the arbitrator was like, you know, what are you people doing? And if you read the opinion, that's what's nice about arbitration. He writes a conclusion of fact and law. It's basically a written opinion about what he saw in the trial. And the conclusion of the trial is the concluding part of the arbitration opinion is just amazing. I mean, he called them to task and basically said, look, you people could have apologized, sat down with his family, tried to work this thing out. But instead, you chose a different path. It was a path of arrogance and a path of refusal to take responsibility. And because of that, it cost them $526,000, and they owe every penny of it to this family. So hopefully, from this tragic episode, this facility, it's in Hendersonville, it's called Hickory Hills Alzheimer Facility. Hopefully they'll change their practice. That was one of the goals here, was to get them to recognize that they had done wrong and to make them change their practice. And hopefully that'll keep other people from falling and dying.
And I'm wondering, as you've seen this, whether it's this place or others, as you describe their conduct, I'm just sitting here saying, in their back closed door meetings, I have to assume as they looked at the facts, they knew, okay, well, this doesn't look good for us. But are there just places you think that just have a policy, regardless of what the reality is, we're going to fight it? And in their experience, if they do that sometimes, they figure, you know, it's going to work out for us. I mean, is that what it is? Because they couldn't have honestly looked at the facts in this and thought, oh, we got a strong case to defend ourselves, could they? So I'm just wondering if it's one of those things where we just have a policy, regardless of what it looks like, we're always going to fight it, which of course is their choice should they choose to. But is that, what do you think it is?
I think in this instance, and to answer your question, yes, there are some of those. I think in this instance, this was an insurance company. Most of these places have insurance, but the insurance requires the consent of the insured before they can agree to settle the case.
Okay.
And I think what happened here was this facility refused to consent to the settlement on the terms that we wanted, the fair terms, and decided they'd rather fight it. The conversation I wanted to have with the defense lawyer, and I never did, because there are times you just need to let your litigation skills do the talking. I really wanted to say, is this the case you want to try? Is this the hill you want to die on? Because what we're told in litigation, a trial practice, you try your winners, you settle your losers. And they flipped that philosophy here. They knew this case was a loser. They had to. But I believe they banked on the fact that the arbitrator would shortchange his family and give them a small amount of money, maybe $150,000, $200,000, and that they could walk away from this thing. Or maybe they thought at some point we would just melt and take the money and not go to arbitration. Whatever it was, they made a bad bet. It came back to bite them in the rear. And this opinion now is floating out there for everyone to see. And now they're going to have to take it. Hey, the funny thing, Nick, I say it's funny. They threatened Jennifer with a libel lawsuit when she first reported on this case. They threatened Channel 5 if Channel 5 went on the news with this case. So she's been vindicated.
Let me ask you this. We talked about it in the past where you've had cases where maybe you thought what was offered by the company was one where, hey, we should maybe take this, and you had someone, it's one we've talked about before, where they said, no, we want to see this through trial, and it unfortunately worked out poorly for them. They ended up losing when they could have had money. I'm wondering about the conversation with what you feel you can share with us you had with your clients when at some point you did have a negotiation with them, and you said they made an offer which you felt was way low beyond what should have been offered, but there was money on the table at some point, some amount. And when it went to them, them. They don't know, and this, I think, is where you want to have a good attorney like yourself. What did you say to them? I mean, did you say, look, they're making this offer, and then they're like, did they just look at you and say, well, Clint, is this a good offer or not? Or how did that play out? I mean, and how did you know to say, look, I think we can do better? Because there was always some risk involved, right? I mean, you just never know.
My client, which was the daughter of the decedent, she and I were in lockstep 100%. There was never a doubt about what we were doing. And it didn't take a millisecond to recognize that they were not dealing with us in good faith. And therefore, we were going to arbitrate this case, and we were going to win. We knew we were going to win. We even tried to mediate the case. The mediator told us we were going to win. So again, you try your winners, you settle your losers. For whatever reason, they were going to try their loser, and they lost ugly, and they lost bad.
On that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll take some phone calls, and we'll talk about some other cases as well. It's always fascinating getting the backstory on how these things play out. And so, Clint, stay put where you are. We'll be right back with more right after this.